This video is going to be somewhat of a tutorial, and it's going to explain through metaphor our strategy for this debate season, Cash Cats. And it's going to explain it by analogy to piracy. So let's get right into it then. Because this is actually one of my favorite games to play as a child, and that's called Pirateer. And I think you'll really see this. Thank you. This is going to be the affirmative, and these are going to be the negative. The reason that the negative are close to you is because you can't see them right now when they're stationed, but that's going to be convenient because I'm already going to move them in their first speech. Obviously, if I were trying to explain the affirmative's first speech, then that whole first speech would be invisible to you because they'd be stationed throughout the entirety of it. And I'll explain that shortly. So, this is really what the judge is going to be voting on. The judge is going to be, let's say over here. And the premise is that we're going to bring this treasure to the judge. Actually, let's say, yeah, we're going to bring this premise to the judge, the center. Only, it's actually a little more nuanced than this. The judge is a third country. And this country, what it aspires to is to receive a bounty, a treasure, from one of the two countries, either the affirmative or the negative. Now, each of these two cities, because each of the countries has a capital city, will not part with its own national treasure for any kind of international support. So what it does is it sends out pirates to steal the other country's treasure. Unfortunately, we'll soon learn that, as tends to be the case in zero-sum games, both sides have their treasure stolen. So the race becomes one of who can get his or her treasure first to the judge. First affirmative speech is the construction of a fleet, of a ship actually, just one ship. And this ship has several parts. The first part is the materials. Alright, I failed to find the materials. Sorry about that. This'll do. Now, obviously, before the speech actually starts, we have a blueprint. But when we start building, we start out with the materials, and that's our background. And we arrange the materials into a framework. And that's the frame of the ship. Then we got the sails. The sails are our impacts. They are what catch the whole wind of the round, and they are what move us to the locations that we need. However, none of that's complete without a rudder. So the rudder is actually our value criterion because it steers the impacts in our direction. And the steering wheel also functions in that respect. Then we have the advantages and the disadvantages. And these are our guns. And our guns are both used to take out the harms of the opponent's city, and they're also, which are our advantages to those harms, and they're also used to basically make war with the opponent's ship, and that's the disadvantage. So this is going to be represented with this token. And that is the first speech. You have 7 minutes to build a ship. It does not have to leave port yet, but it has to be big enough and strong enough and flexible enough to be steered by the second speaker. The first speaker is the architect. The second speaker on the F is the person steering. You can see it right here. Now that would have been obviously very inconvenient if I'd been showing that over here, right? So why wouldn't that be inconvenient though? When I'm talking about the neg, I mean you can't see this very well here. Well, or maybe I can actually see it better. Well, at any rate, the thing is that half of the first neg speech is used constructing a ship, very much like this one, and the other half is used moving this ship. Moving this ship and moving it along the trade winds and attacking this ship before it even leaves harbor. And already starting to attack this central city, hoping to take the treasure. And what can our ship do during that time? Not much, just asking questions. It can't move around this ship yet, but it can try to deal some damage in the form of interrogation. So, the first neg speaker is going to be both captain as well as architect. So, what happens during the second neg speech? Or second aff speech? Second affirmative speaker has several options, but what is not an option is that the second affirmative speaker definitely needs to make it here and take the treasure. Another option that one has is also to deal damage with this ship. Keep in mind that the two parts of the first negative speech are the on case and the off case. Now, the off case, which is an ironic way of putting it, is actually what the neg spent blueprinting, and that is what helps us to construct this ship. The on case is actually how it's going to attack this ship. For that reason, it kind of makes more sense to go off case and then on case, doesn't it? Because otherwise you're pretty much fronting and talking about how you're going to attack rather than actually attacking. Though it's implicit that that actual attack goes through. It depends on game theory now. But now, second speakers have a lot of freedom. They have to take the treasure. That much is essential. They can also choose either before or after they take the treasure, which is their on case, to go off case and start attacking this other ship. What they also have to do is, what the second affirmative has to do is be responsible for repairing the damages done by the negative to the vessel. And there's another responsibility, which is to bring the treasure back. Because if you don't bring the treasure back, It's very difficult for the first affirmative speaker in the last speech to make the necessary repair